Swayam Prabha. Digital India. Educated India.
Welcome to the course, Environmental Impact Assessment. In the previous session, we saw how human activities have generated emissions and altered the air around us. Today, we will look at the status of oceans and coast. We will follow Chapter 7 of the Global Environment Outlook 6 by United Nations Environment Programme. So accordingly, our coverage will include extent of problems in oceans and coast. We will look at the significance of oceans and coast on human life and look at this from an Indian context as well. We'll understand the concept of healthy ocean. Moreover, we will talk about the challenges for sustainable use and management of marine and coastal ecosystems, plus issues that focus on tropical coral reef, fishing, debris, sand mining, deep sea mining, and ocean noise. So the expected learning outcomes from you after completion of this session include: you should be able to review the extent of problems in oceans and coast. You should be able to synthesize the significance of ocean and coast in human life, and you should be able to also see it from the Indian context. You should be able to define the concept of healthy ocean. You should be able to review the challenges of sustainable use and management of marine and coastal ecosystems. You should be able to discuss various issues related with tropical coral reef, fishing, debris, sand mining, deep sea mining, and ocean noise. And most importantly, you should review all these and understand contextual perspective of environmental impact assessment as we proceed. So we are learning this at the background of EIA, so you should be reflecting on it. As we know, our activities are also influencing the health of world's oceans. We will first look at the extent. We observe that as per the Global Environment Outlook report, more than 80% of marine pollution comes from our land-based activities. We see that there is a rapid change in entire marine ecosystems. There are frequent coral bleachings and notable sea level rise. We also note that global warming is causing changes in ocean, chemistry, and many oceanic processes, and it is threatening many species of marine animals that cannot cope with higher temperatures. Furthermore, excessive fishing is a serious problem in many parts of the world. The rise of sea levels caused by global warming is growing concern for our coastal population. For example, many pesticides and nutrients used in agriculture eventually reach the coastal waters, which cause oxygen depletion that kills marine plants and shellfish. Moreover, we see that factories and industrial plants discharge sewage and other runoffs into the oceans. We also know about oil spills that pollute oceans. We also know about air pollution. Air pollution is said to be responsible for almost 1/3 of the toxic contaminants and nutrients that enter coastal areas and oceans. Moreover, invasive species such as poisonous algae, cholera, and countless plants and animals have entered harbors and disrupted the ecological balance. The United Nations Food and Agriculture Organization, we see that it estimates that 31.4% of fish stocks are either fished to the capacity, to the maximum capacity, or overfished. Let us now look at the geographical extent of the problem, the world's ocean comprise more than 70% of Earth's surface. And as per the report, more than 1.9 billion people lived in coastal areas in 2010, and we see that the number is expected to reach 2.4 billion by 2050. So 2.4 billion people will be affected by the change we are talking about. That is a huge number we are looking at. In these areas, 20 of the 30 megacities are located on the coast. So you see the number here, and these megacities are expected to increase in population faster than non-urban areas. So here even the increase will also happen faster. The three fastest growing coastal megacities, as we see the example, include Lagos in Nigeria, Guangzhou in China, and Dhaka in Bangladesh. So think deeply about the risks involved in these changes that our activities are causing. And now let us see why the oceans are important to us. In the report, it is narrated that the health and livelihoods of many people are directly linked to the ocean through its resources. So when we look at the resources such as seafood and the important aesthetics, cultural and religious benefits it provides. Seafood provides at least 20% of animal protein supply for 3.1 billion people globally, as per the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. The income we generate from the tourism industry is because of these benefits which we see. And as the report suggests, it has severe consequences for the economically disadvantaged coastal areas and communities, because such areas will be more vulnerable to these changes and losses. Coastal ecosystems also provide numerous environmental benefits such as coastal stabilization, regulation of coastal water quality and quantity. We also see biodiversity and spawning habitats for many important species happen here. The ocean is an integral part of the global climate system. As per the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, the ocean contributes to the transportation of heat, which influences temperature and rainfall across the planet. The report also provides evidences that about 50% of the primary global production occurs in the ocean. We get economically important resources such as aggregates, sand, renewable energy, and biopharmaceuticals from these resources. However, it's important to see that because of human activities and the drivers which we had discussed before, the health of marine and coastal ecosystem is deteriorating. The pollution, climate change, overfishing, and loss of habitat and biodiversity are costing the health of marine and coastal ecosystems. This eventually affects us, the people. It affects our livelihoods and many indirect benefits that ocean gives to us. If we consider India, now we look at India, Mani Juneja in 2021 wrote for Terry that India has a vast ocean of economic opportunity with more than 7,500 kilometer long coastline. And we see that 95% of transportation needs of businesses are met by these water-based economy. And this water-based economy contributes around 4% to GDP. India is also the third largest fish producing and second largest aquaculture fish producing country in the world. Country has potential to engage a large workforce and have been doing so from the past many decades, at least in the sectors such as we see in fishing, aquaculture, fish processing, marine tourism, shipping and port activities. Now engagements we see further engagement in new sectors such as offshore wind, marine biology, biotechnology, and other activities like shipbuilding and shipbreaking is also rising extensively. So all these activities are coming up. The fisheries sector alone provides livelihood to about 16 million fisher folks. So you see the range of employment it generates, and fish farmers at the primary level and almost twice the number along the value chain. The shipping sector is also one of the key livelihood providers in the water-based blue economy. As India has one of the largest merchant shipping fleets among the developing countries, we also see the number of Indian seafarers who are employed on Indian and foreign flag vessels crossed over 2 lakhs in 2018, and it shows the unprecedented increase of 35% over previous year. We also see seaports are also a large source of employment, and unlike India's major ports, jobs in smaller ports have increased over the years. In the past 5 years, smaller ports have edged out the major ports in growth of cargo volumes as well, so they are increasing drastically. We further see marine tourism is also a sector that has been one of the fastest growing globally and in India, particularly in the coastal states like Kerala, Karnataka and Tamil Nadu. Coastal tourism has contributed largely to both the state's economies and livelihood. For example, we can see in Kerala the total number of jobs created directly and indirectly by the sector between 2009 and 2012 in this period was around 23% of the total employment. That's a huge proportion we are looking at. So, review of these facts as per the Terry writing shows our dependency on the oceans and coast, and at the same time the environmental risk we face as a nation. Now let us see what does a healthy ocean means to us conceptually. As provided by UNEP, by definition, a healthy ocean is one which the basic ecosystem, functions and structure are intact, integral. Thereby, basic ecosystem is able to support livelihoods and contribute to human well-being. The ecosystem is resilient to current and future changes. It is important that marine and coastal ecosystems are functioning and used within their environmental limits. They should be used in a way that no severe or irreversible harm is done to the system. Such careful utilization will allow us to continue to take full benefit of the ecosystem. However, despite this, we see there are challenges to sustainably use and manage the marine and coastal ecosystems. We see that, as per the report, there are competing pressures on natural resources. There are many users of the resources. There are complexities of governance. The marine and the coastal ecosystems do not follow any governance boundaries, and coastal states have rights and obligations within their marine jurisdiction. So let's begin to understand the complexity. As explained in the report, we see that the ocean currents can carry chemicals, waste, emerging organic pollutants, pathogens beyond areas under national maritime boundaries. So your area can be influenced by the activities of the others over whom you have no control. And marine organisms and seabirds which you see may not remain under the jurisdiction of a state or the boundaries defined by you. These interlinkages between ocean conditions and marine life and the spatially dynamic ocean processes mean that the activities of any single industrial sector may have far-reaching impact. So anything which is done in one industry can be impacting somewhere else, people located in some other place. So you see the complexity of the problem and its impact at different places. And such patterns disrupt the livelihoods of people who receive no benefits from the industry that has caused the impact. So they just become the victims of the functioning of others. We also see that there are multiple and often conflicting uses. As we can see in the image here, the central circle represents major high-level drivers of change in human demands on the ocean, such as, and as discussed before also, we have discussed this before also, population growth, urbanization, economic development, technology and innovation, and climate change. These drivers create societal needs indicated in the inner ring, such as need for food, construction, transportation, energy, recreation. And in the outer ring, we see the industry sector, which addresses to these societal needs. These industries addresses our needs, and often we'll see through all this EIA and discourse, we need to regulate them to protect the ecosystem through policies. So we can see how we have multiple and conflicting uses. Then we also have global problems like climate change and ocean acidification, which needs to be addressed. Climate change impacts ocean temperature, sea ice, extent and thickness, salinity, sea level rise, and extreme weather events. Ocean have many uses, and there are too many linkages among marine ecosystems and between the land and adjacent seas. We may also reflect that there are numerous industries dependent on the oceanic and coastal resources with very high economic value and generating increased employment with major environmental impacts. We see sectors such as fishing, shipping, port, offshore hydrocarbon industries, other marine-based industries, marine-based mining, marine-based tourism. So all these you can see, and then the impact range from changes of the food web structure and function. We also see that bycatches happens of the non-targeted species during the fishing, gear impacts on the seabed habitats, and benthos, which means the flora and fauna found on the bottom or in the bottom sediments of a sea or a lake, which are especially structurally fragile habitats. So even they get impacted by this. Shipping disaster and accidents also happen. We also see chronic and episodic release of fuel and other hydrocarbons. We see discharge of sewage, waste and grey water. We also see transmission of invasive species. So there are very invasive species which get transmitted to other locations because of this. We also see noise from ships. Maritime transport responsible. We see that maritime transport is responsible for about 3% of global greenhouse gas emissions. Furthermore, we see concentration of shipping and its potential environmental impacts. There are frequent need for dredging and access to deep water passages. We also see impacts on seabed and coastal from the construction of infrastructure. So you saw a range of impact which happens. Now we will look at some of the upcoming issues. So what are the issues? We'll only focus on the limited ones. So we'll look at tropical coral reefs, the fishing issue. We'll also look at the debris entering the marine environment, that is the marine litter. We will also look at few emerging topics such as mercury, sand mining,